Dexter has done the impossible.
Hey, what about communication, trust, la pasión?
Tell me, how many shows have you seen that has stayed trending and popular as long as Dexter has? Even more so, how many shows have reached their absolute peak in popularity more than a decade since its original release, like Dexter has? Like, seriously, this is not even a joke. Like, Dexter has had possibly the biggest resurgence, or you could say resurrection, that I have personally ever seen for a TV show. Spanning 11 seasons across 4 entire shows, and people are still heavily invested in it, with people talking about it online and in person, making videos, and people making edits, including yours truly, as well as staying in the top rankings of IMDb's most watched shows. Now, the interesting part is that when it comes to TV shows being relevant and popular, I have a theory that they usually come in either 2 packages.
You forget you work for the fucking cops? We love theories. Come on, spin me a story, asshole.
Okay, so you either got like a new season of a show comes out and it becomes trending and popular all over social media. Like, I think this is pretty much the most common way a show becomes relevant. Obviously, when something new comes out, like a new season, and people talk about it. Or else you got B, which is a bit more rare than the first one, and it's basically where a show might get a temporary trending revival, you could say, in which you see an influx of media created about that particular show, as well as the show seeing an increase in viewership years after it ended. Shows like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, The Walking Dead have all gone through this type of revival in recent years. However, this usually only lasts for like a couple months, maybe even a year, until people on social media find the next show to latch onto. But then you have Dexter, which has managed to surpass both of these situations to literally create one of its own. A situation where Dexter as an IP has managed to stay relevant for almost 20 years at this point, with absolutely no end in sight. And with Dexter Resurrection just finishing its very well received first season, one's gotta wonder, why are people so obsessed with Dexter? I think the only way to answer that question is to just take a look at the franchise's history and how audiences as a whole have responded to it. Starting off obviously with the original show. I mean, I don't think it needs an extensive introduction at this point, but if you don't know what it is, Dexter is a TV show about Dexter Morgan, who works as a blood spatter analyst for Miami Metro Homicide with a keen interest into killing people. Now, on the surface level, you might think that this was just another serial killer type show like Hannibal or You, but it's actually not. And the reason as to how Dexter sets itself apart from these other shows is that Dexter Morgan himself is not your average psychopathic serial killer. You see, fictional serial killers like Hannibal Lecter or Joe Goldberg kill pretty much anyone who stands in their way, with most of their victims being innocent people. Hannibal kills people just to have a nice warm meal, and Joe Goldberg kills people for very selfish reasons while he stalks innocent women.
What was that? 8 seconds?
But then you got Dexter, on the other hand, who he doesn't just kill anyone he comes across with. No. But he only kills bad people. The worst of the worst, actually. And the reason for this is due to a code which was instilled into Dexter by his foster father, Harry Morgan. This is a code which is basically designed to channel Dexter's dark urges into at least doing something good. And it's this very idea of a code which Dexter lives by is what, in my opinion, has enthralled a lot of audiences that Dexter has garnered throughout all these years. And we see him employing this code whenever Dexter has a new victim set on his eyes. We see him stalking them, following them around, vetting them to make sure that they really, truly fit the code. And then when the time is right, they end up on his plastic table. So with Dexter having a sort of criminal code, you could almost see him as some sort of lethal protector, a vigilante of sorts. And actually, that's how Dexter likes to see himself as. He fantasizes about people praising him for his actions like he's some sort of superhero. But in reality, he's a complete outlaw.
Jesus fucking Christ, you're the Bay Harbor Butcher.
And I think it's not just the code itself which makes things interesting, but also realizing Dexter's true motivations behind his killings. Like, sure, I mean, Harry's code enables Dexter to sort of channel his dark passenger towards the greater good, but in reality, Dexter doesn't kill purely out of a sense of justice, for the most part. He mainly kills in order for him to feed his inner personal urges, his dark passenger as he calls it. And to corroborate this, just take a look at the way he goes about killing these people.
What is it with you and rape? No one's raping anyone. Killing, on the other hand.
Dexter completely indulges in his kills. You see him constantly daydreaming about his next kill. He enjoys stalking his victims, preparing his kill table, and ultimately he revels when he plunges his knife into his victim's chest as a wave of total relief washes over him. So yeah, I mean, bro's crazy.
This is some sick fuck ritual, man. You need help.
So at the same time, you know, Dexter's little ritual is just completely psychotic. Cause yeah, sure, he's getting rid of the world's bad people, but he enjoys the whole process of it. He gets off of it. So you start wondering, is this morally right or wrong? And this is where I'd like to draw a comparison with other fictional vigilantes. And I think the prime example for this is Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, who you could say operates similarly to Dexter in the way that he targets and kills criminals and bad people, but unlike Dexter, you don't see Frank enjoy himself killing them. He doesn't have a specific ritual where he prepares a whole room filled with plastic and pictures of his victims. Wow, that is a tongue twister. And you certainly don't see him rejoice or take great pleasure in what he does. He purely kills these criminals out of a sense of self-justice because he believes that the established justice system is fundamentally broken.
So you just put him in the morgue? You goddamn right I do.
Now, going back to Dexter, I think it's that constant moral dilemma of whether Dexter is a good guy or a bad guy is what makes his character so compelling and attractive. And throughout the show, you just start wondering, you know, are Dexter's actions justified, or is he as bad as the people he kills?
Open your eyes and look at what you did!
These are questions which the viewer will naturally ask when watching this show. It's almost like a test of morality or conscience, and it's up to us, the viewer, to decide whether Dexter is morally justified or not. And the best part about it is that the show doesn't outright tell us that, but it allows the viewer to come up with their own opinion. Throughout the show, we see Dexter going after a lot of different serial killers and criminals, and each season always has a central antagonist which Dexter is aiming towards getting. Characters like Brian Moser, the Trinity Killer, Miguel Prado are some of the most notable villains.
Because I will fuck you back!
And most times he always manages to get the upper hand and add them to his collection. However, oftentimes in his pursuit of these killers, a lot of innocent people get caught in the crossfire. This happens especially when Dexter's private life and killer life end up clashing with each other. Obviously without him even wanting to, as he's constantly trying to keep those two sides of his life separate.
Daddy kills people.
And this double life aspect is what especially really makes these episodes so exciting, as there's this constant will he get caught element all throughout, and how would the characters react if they found out the truth.
I'm an accomplice.
You walked in on me. I had to think on my feet.
Well, fuck me for ruining your night.
Some of the most impactful deaths in the show are indeed those people who surround Dexter's daily life. Rita, Deborah, Dokes, LaGuardia all bite the bullet because somehow they got too close to Dexter's private life and Dexter ended up causing their deaths indirectly. And it's these same people who surround Dexter also play a huge part in Dexter's life, whether he likes to admit it or not. In the beginning especially, Dexter says that he fakes all of his emotions and that he pretty much doesn't feel anything.
Just like me. Empty inside.
Dexter admits that he does this as part of the code, just to fit into regular society and to maintain appearances. We also see him doing this with his sister Deborah, who by far he's the closest to.
I don't have feelings about anything, but if I could have feelings at all, I'd have them for Deb.
Deborah was Dexter's closest thing to a moral compass. She was probably one of the only few people who loved Dexter unconditionally. Wait, not like that, not like that. Dexter actually looked up to Deborah as she represents the kindness and warmth that humanity can offer, something which initially Dexter was completely out of tune with.
Today, I'm just a sea monster.
And I feel like its characters like Deborah is what makes the show so compelling in so many viewers' eyes, as throughout the season you can see how all of these people leave a different, profound impact on Dexter and shape him to be more human. Obviously, there are other characters who leave a very personal impact on Dexter's life. Rita, for example, she represented the innocence and light in Dexter's life. For the first 4 seasons, Rita plays a huge part in Dexter's double life, where she acted as Dexter's family part, the part where he actually came to love and was ready to commit himself to. But then, tragically, that gets taken away by Trinity, which turns things upside down, because Dexter, now without Rita, he no longer has that strong double life aspect, which is something which a lot of fans felt the lack of in the latter seasons of the show. And the death which impacted him the most was obviously Deborah's. I mean, it impacted him so much that it led him to abandoning his own son to go and live in full isolation. Because by losing Deborah, Dexter loses his North Star. Which then leads us to...
It's been a long time.
Almost 10 years after the controversial Season 8 ending, Dexter returns in the form of a limited spin-off show called Dexter New Blood. Now, before we analyze how New Blood cemented itself into Dexter's history, I think it's actually important to recognize the reason as to why this show was made in the first place. After the insane backlash that the Season 8 ending got, fans rightly demanded a proper ending for Dexter. But for the longest time, many believed that that was it. There was never going to be a proper follow-up. Of course, until New Blood came out.
Tonight's the night.
And you might ask, like, why did it take them 8 whole years to release such a spin-off? And in my opinion, it probably boils down to a couple things. First off, obviously, being the persistent fan response throughout all the years of desperately wanting to see Dexter back. But also, the other reason I'd say would probably be due to the legacy revival trend that other shows were doing. Shows like Twin Peaks: The Return, Prison Break, The X-Files were all following this trend of picking up the original shows from where they previously left off to create a new sort of event season, and Dexter followed suit. And I feel like the whole purpose of New Blood's existence was to essentially give Dexter the ending he deserved. It didn't set out to be a complete revival of the original show with multiple seasons planned ahead, but it was always planned to be this limited event series to finally end Dexter's story once and for all. Which, by now we know didn't happen, but yeah.
Surprise, motherfucker.
And the reason why I'm saying this is written all over the show. Starting off with the glaringly obvious is the setting. Dexter New Blood takes the scene away from sunny Miami to a cold, icy Iron Lake in upstate New York. This change is such a huge contrast from the original show setting, which in my opinion actually makes a lot of sense. Because by taking Dexter away from a sunny metropolitan city like Miami to a cold, deserted town like Iron Lake, it was such a vital choice for New Blood in establishing that, hey, things are different now.
Oh, the good old days.
And I feel like this change definitely worked with what New Blood was trying to establish, placing Dexter outside of his comfort zone, who was then forced to act out the things that play out in the show. The setting, in my opinion, also signifies the show's overall tone. It gives it a very dreadful and dark vibe, which also makes sense as it takes place 10 years after Dexter lost Deborah, leaving him in a cold, isolated space away from his home. And we also learn that it's been 10 years since he last killed. But then, when Matt Caldwell comes along, he gives in to his dark passenger and kills him.
You shot my deer! and you almost killed me.
And Matt Caldwell is actually a really interesting case because it wasn't made entirely sure if he truly fit the code, since his case with the boat was technically manslaughter, which kind of puts him in this gray area with the code, which I feel like Dexter really tried to justify as hard as he could in order for him to fit in the code, which in my opinion is the first sign of Dexter spiraling out of control in this show. The Dexter Morgan we see in New Blood is not the same Dexter as he was before. He's older, not as athletic, he's sloppy and rusty at his killing routine, and he's also kind of losing it throughout the show, which overall, in my opinion, brought a really interesting change to the character.
Peace.
We learned that 10 years of him not killing deeply affected him, like it was an itch he desperately wanted to scratch, but he couldn't out of respect for Deborah until he finally gave in. And on top of that, Harrison being added into the equation spices things up as Dexter now has to deal with an estranged teenage son, as well as facing the consequences of him killing Matt and his dad, who turns out to be a serial killer and Mr. Krabs.
Give it a fucking rest.
What, you want to go? Is that it?
I think by far the most important aspect of New Blood, in my opinion, was Harrison himself. Now, I know a lot of people do not like Harrison in New Blood, but come on, man. Bro's been through hell. He witnessed his mother get butchered as a child, his dad abandoned him with his stepmom in Argentina, and along the way, he also lost his stepmom and ended up alone. Then after years, he literally had to track down his dad in the middle of nowhere, and when he finds him, he gets a crash course on how to be a serial killer.
You ready?
However, I do think that Harrison's direction as a character this season was not the best in my opinion, especially with the way it ended. They were essentially kind of trying to pass the torch by setting him up to be the next Dexter, you know, with him showing similar violent tendencies, him learning the code, and as well as him shooting his father so nonchalantly.
Open your eyes and look at what you've done!
And I think just overall it was a total misstep for the character, and it was the main reason as to why so many people disliked Harrison. But overall, I just really enjoyed New Blood as a show, except the ending. And yes, the ending of New Blood prompted a lot of backlash from the fans, with some saying it's even worse than season 8. And I think the main problem that a lot of people had with the ending wasn't that Dexter seemingly died, but it was those last 25 minutes of the final episode which just totally ruined everything the show was building up towards. And the worst part of it was definitely not having that built-up confrontation between Dexter and Angel, which was just, it was so baffling not to do that. And the saddest part is that the cast themselves admitted that there was never anything planned in the script for them to meet.
It wasn't talked about, but I'm with you. I mean, I would love, like, I think it would be cool to have some, this is not a pitch or anything that would ever happen, but like a parallel universe where all the different possibilities are realized. And I think that scene between Dexter and Batista would be pretty phenomenal, yeah. But they didn't talk about it.
But overall, given its flaws, I feel like Dexter New Blood is a very crucial part of Dexter's history, which contributes towards his overall revival. This is a side of Dexter Morgan which we had never seen before. We see him face new challenges that he never dealt with in the original show, such as recovering his routine after 10 years of not killing, him not working as a blood spatter analyst, and his dilemma with Harrison on whether he should tell him about the code or not, and being a good father in general.
The marriage fell apart. My mom was killed by a serial killer.
And all of this ultimately led to his final, deserved closed ending. Or wait, no. After what was probably an even more divisive and controversial ending than season 8, Showtime actually announced another revival for Dexter in the form of Dexter Resurrect. Wait, I think we forgot something. Oh, Dexter Original Sin. Yeah, in 2024, Showtime announced not one, but 2 Dexter spin-offs with Original Sin and Resurrection. Original Sin came out first, where it is essentially a prequel spin-off show which is set in 1991, where we see Dexter's first years in Miami Metro and also as a killer.
Time to go.
It's not what you think.
Now, I'm gonna ask the same question as I did for New Blood. Why was Original Sin made in the first place? Just like season 8 of the original show, there was yet another wave of persistent backlash towards New Blood's ending this time. And this was basically Showtime's response to that. But then again, still, why would Showtime make a prequel show and not just Resurrection? And I think the answer is simple for that: money. You know, Showtime are not stupid. They know that Dexter is their flagship show and that it had a whole resurgence in popularity at around 2023 to 2024. And one of the main catalysts of that was that the original show was put on Netflix, which brought in a whole new wave of viewers. So fan interest around that time was at an all-time high, and I guess Original Sin was made as a kind of in-between hype season before Resurrection came out, which was the proper follow-up for New Blood after all.
We have a heartbeat.
A beating heart. I'll take it.
Now, the initial reception for Original Sin was mixed, especially before it came out. I guess people were just very cautious when it came to the show, as they kind of saw through the intention of why it was being made in the first place. But I think the most skeptical aspect of it was the cast.
They're just giving you a hard time because you're the new guy.
Oh, weird.
Naturally, since the show was set in 1991, they needed a whole new cast for all the characters to play their younger versions. I mean, they weren't going to cast Michael C. Hall with a wig again. And initially, when the cast was announced, there was a lot of controversy going around on whether this new cast were going to be able to live up to the original actors' performances, which, in my opinion, they absolutely did.
Me, I'm forensics.
What are you, 12?
Patrick Gibson and Molly Brown especially just personified the young versions of Dexter and Deborah Morgan so perfectly that they both got their respective characters down so well, down to their little mannerisms.
What if I did kill someone?
You are so high.
But seriously though, I really think that the casting for Original Sin was just absolutely perfect, and they totally proved everyone wrong when the show rolled out.
How can you fucking eat at a time like this?
I could always eat at a time like this.
For the show itself, I personally think it's a really solid season of Dexter. It kind of felt like back to formula, but with a new twist. We get to see Dexter learning the ropes of being a serial killer, as well as a new employee at Miami Metro.
I've known this kid ever since he was watching Scooby-Doo in his jammies, huh?
And lighting fires and killing small animals.
But we also see him struggle to maintain relationships with his family members and his social life.
Heard a lot about you, man.
Nice teeth, man.
Thanks.
The rest of the season is then Dexter uncovering a murder mystery within Miami Metro, which involved the police captain there, who ends up being this season's villain, as well as an incredible side plot involving Brian, which added a ton of depth and lore to the character.
Well, Barb, life is full of wants and desires.
And I feel like that was this season's strong suit on how they added so much new depth that we had never seen before to some of the characters. We also see a totally new side to Harry, who, in my opinion, was the best character in the season. We see him struggling not only to control Dexter and channel his urges, but we see him struggle with his own personal urges due to his alcohol and smoking addictions.
Sorry. Get me the fuck out of here!
And obviously, a great thing about Original Sin was that it brought Dexter back to Miami, where I think it totally managed to recapture those seasons 1 through 4 vibes of the city, which is something that a lot of people missed from New Blood.
As long as you have a heartbeat, you can dance.
Overall, I think Original Sin ended up being one of the finer seasons of Dexter in the whole franchise. Like, it is that good. It really feels like a return to form for the show, and ended up gaining and surprising a lot of viewers along the way. And in general, people were very interested in it. Like, I think the engagement by fans for Original Sin was very high throughout the airing of the episodes. And overall, I think people got really acquainted to the new cast, where they would generally love to see more of them.
Homicide looks good on you.
Couldn't agree more.
Unfortunately, though, recent news has come out that the second season of Original Sin has been canceled. I'm not exactly sure as to the reason why, but it mostly has to do with Showtime wanting to focus more on Dexter Resurrection, which is actually very, very unfortunate to see, because I feel like there was a lot of potential with the show where they could have easily made another season to tie up loose ends, like what happened to Sarah Michelle Gellar's character Tanya, and what happened to Bobby. And potentially, we get to see how Masuka loses his hair. There's actually an online petition going on right now which has already amassed tens of thousands of signatures for Showtime to bring back the show, which I'll be linking down in the description below. So if you would like to see a chance at Original Sin coming back like I do, you can go ahead and sign it. And finally, we get to the meat on the bones of Dexter's full revival with Dexter Resurrection.
Am I dead?
Not yet.
Which has officially cemented Dexter's full-on return to the small screen. And yeah, this show is a banger. Okay, like I don't think anybody expected this season to go as hard as it did, given by how different it is from the original series.
Hello there.
The fan response to the season has been so overwhelmingly positive that the episode ratings on IMDb are so high that almost every single episode is rated over a 9, with episode 9 being a 9.8 out of 10, making it the highest rated Dexter episode along with The Getaway. And I can definitely see the appeal that Dexter Resurrection has. It brought back the old school magic of the original show and spiced things up in ways which Dexter New Blood failed to do. It plays Dexter back into a metropolitan city, with it being set in the Big Apple. Like, it can't get more metropolitan than that.
Welcome to New York.
But most importantly, I think it brought back the good old Dexter charm, where the whole season feels a little bit lighter in tone and less depressing when compared to the very dark and oppressive nature of New Blood.
Who's number one now?
Like, for example, the whole serial killer dinner party is as ridiculous as it sounds. Like, bro, this shit is just so absurd, but really entertaining to watch at the same time. Like, every single serial killer in this little club is just comical, almost like they're cartoon villains.
Welcome to the freak show.
But what I like the most about this club, though, is that each and every one of them links back to previous antagonists and villains that Dexter has met in the past. Al, for example, reminds Dexter of the Trinity Killer, on how he seemed to be the perfect example of having a balanced serial killer life, with him being able to keep a happy family but also manage to satisfy his urges.
Hey, we're going on a whirlybird. Woohoo!
The Gemini Killer, then, who was my personal favorite of the bunch, who was actually really interesting. He was kind of similar to Brian Moser in how they were twin brothers killing people in pairs, something which Dexter rejected that very idea from his own brother.
Help!
Mia is actually very similar to Lila West back in season 2, where she almost completely seducts Dexter with her looks and her charisma and almost makes him believe that there's hope between them. She gets close to convincing him that she has some kind of code like he does, with her being named Lady Vengeance and all that, but he realizes that that's not the case, and she kills innocent people.
Should have known you were too good to be true.
That makes two of us.
And with Mia especially, it's quite interesting how Dexter handled it, because this is probably the first time that Dexter didn't outright go for the kill, but he actually got her arrested, which she then later died in prison.
There's a guy screaming next door. I think some chick's trying to murder him. I heard her call herself Lady Vengeance or some shit.
And then we have the tattoo collector, who is just, he's just there, I guess.
The Bay Harbor Butcher.
As you might have noticed, the cast for the Serial Killer Club is quite stacked. I mean, you got some big players over here. Kristen Ritter, Neil Patrick Harris, David Dastmalchian, and Eric Stonestreet. Like, talk about high-end actors. And not only that, but you also got the legendary Uma Thurman as one of the antagonists, and Peter Dinklage as the main villain.
Ronald Schmidt.
I do hope that Uma Thurman's character comes back, since she's actually one of the 2 characters from this cast who survived the end of the season, and she was a really compelling character. She kind of reminded me of Isaac Serco, played by the late great Ray Stevenson back in season 7 of Dexter. She was this dangerous, very lethal antagonist, but she wasn't really a villain like Prater. She was kind of forced to do things for him because he was helping her sick mother. And it's actually coming to me right now that Leon himself actually reminded me of Jordan Chase back in season 5. He had similar traits to him with the way how he was this completely unhinged psycho who preferred to watch others in pain rather than committing it himself.
You like that, huh? You like that, Prater? You sick fuck!
But in my opinion, one of the best things that this show did is that it totally redeemed Harrison as a character. Turning him from a whiny little psycho that he was in New Blood to actually someone who is strong and independent, but also close to his father.
Safe and sound.
Safe and sound.
And I just absolutely love how they didn't go down the route of Harrison being the next Dexter. Actually, it turns out that Harrison is almost nothing like his father. He still gets the same violent urges that Dexter has, but when he kills Ryan in the hotel, he doesn't enjoy it. He doesn't feel that same sense of relief that Dexter gets. Instead, he actually kind of regrets it, not because he saved that girl, because that was a good thing, but because him murdering Ryan just completely started haunting him. But however, even after that whole ordeal, we still see him get these urges, like when he almost killed Bobby Bacala.
My fucking eye, you motherfucker!
Oh my god, like seriously, bro, this cameo caught me so off guard. He's so goated.
He's gonna kill me! Where's Dexter? Out of my way, you cocksucker!
But he actually holds back because he realizes that he doesn't want to go down that path again. And this actually led to a very interesting relationship between Dexter and Harrison, where Harrison ends up coming into terms with his father's nature. He accepts him for who he is, but it actually makes them closer to each other. I feel like Showtime and the executives behind Dexter Resurrection really just listened to all the backlash that New Blood got as a show, and really just made Resurrection a response to all of the criticism that show got. And in general, it really feels like Resurrection was this course correction for the franchise as a whole. Seriously, I mean, so much of the issues that New Blood had were literally addressed in Resurrection. For example, a change which a lot of people really liked is that they brought back the big city feeling of Dexter. Even though he's still in New York like he was in New Blood, they brought him to the Big Apple this time, where just like in Miami, it's much easier to blend in and be anonymous in a big city like that, rather than a small, isolated town like Iron Lake.
I love New York.
It also gave us the long-awaited confrontation between Dexter and Angel, which actually served as a season-long rivalry.
Surprise, hermano.
With Angel constantly on the hunt to catch Dexter, making it a very personal mission to the point where he quit his job at Miami Metro. And, you know, Resurrection as a whole had a completely different purpose than New Blood. Rather than focusing on giving Dexter yet another ending, they decided to give him a full-on revival, with the show actually being planned to have multiple seasons.
Being back on a boat is a resurrection of sorts. But it's different this time.
And with season 1 gaining tremendous success from critics and fans alike, this show is surely to live on for the next couple years, until Showtime announces another spin-off called Dexter Retirement when Michael C. Hall is 90 years old.
They're gonna make him do this till he's 90.
But what I know for sure is that me and a lot of other fans are hungry for more Dexter content, especially if it is of the same quality, if not better, than Resurrection Season 1.
Is this your version of hangry? Go away, Dad.
So now that we've taken a look at how this franchise has shaped Dexter's history with every single series and spin-off show, I think it's safe to say that the reason as to why this franchise and this character has remained to stay so popular and relevant is simply because it's just good. But not only that, it's consistently good. I don't think that there was ever an entire era of Dexter where it was outright bad. Well, except for season 8.
So I'm not perfect!
Out of like 11 seasons, I think that's the only one I would consider genuinely bad. And I think it's also a testament as to how fans have remained engaged and how they have transferred from one show to another. Something which is extremely hard to do when you're doing spin-offs. Usually, it's very difficult to transfer an entire audience from one show to another, because in reality, only a percentage of your original audience is going to keep watching. Take other shows such as The Walking Dead, which in my opinion has completely failed in establishing a proper spin-off universe.
You say anything like that again to me, I'll break your jaw, knock your teeth out.
Other than the main show, which yes had an extremely popular peak, the other spin-offs just never took off. They never really gained nearly as much traction or interest that the main one had. And then you got Dexter, on the other hand, which has successfully managed to keep fan investment through 3 spin-offs now, including one which is a prequel that is totally unrelated to the present storyline. And another reason why fans are still so invested and the fan base keeps growing is because they keep talking about it. Word of mouth is one of the most important and effective ways to market your stuff. It can be done through videos, edits, or even just recommendations to friends and families. And I believe that as long as people keep talking about Dexter and talking about how good and addictive it is, it'll surely stay relevant for the time being.
Surprise, motherfucker.